All right, the meeting will come to order. Please take your seats. I know we have some folks that are still checking in, so we have some preliminaries to go through before we get started proper. So please check in and get your town meeting report if you didn't bring it with you for tonight's meeting. We'll begin, as is our custom, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. You may be seated. As I mentioned, thank you. All right. I hope everyone's getting a copy of their town meeting report if they don't already have it. It contains tonight's one and only article, so it'll be important that you have it. I just wanted to point out that the section of the bleachers to my right, closest to the check-in, is for non-voters only. So if you're a voter, I'd ask if you'd move to the center section so that when you do vote, you'll be counted. That section will be for non-voters at this time. Thank you. All right, while we're doing that, the town meeting guidelines are posted on the town website, but I'll summarize the most important ones. If during the course of debate you wish to speak, you must be recognized by the moderator. All right, quiet please. And when you do wish to speak, if you come to the single microphone stand we have here in the aisle when the time comes, and I'll invite you to come to the microphone. I know we have some seniors here, and we do have someone with a handheld microphone who can bring that to you. So seniors shouldn't feel they need to walk to the mic stand, but everyone else should. All right. And before we get started, I know there are strong feelings on both sides of this issue. I don't think any of us thought when we were here a couple of months ago we'd be back here in June, and it's a hot night, and I appreciate people turning out. I would ask that you all listen to all the speakers respectfully, and any remarks that anyone makes should be civil as well. I mean, there's a way to disagree without being disagreeable, and it's my hope that we can conduct the town's business tonight and have a minimum of rancor, if possible. So thank you. As I said, all questions should be addressed through the moderator. The way we're going to handle things tonight, there will be a presentation by the proponent of this article. And as you may recall, presentations are limited to 10 minutes in length. There'll be a proposal, a presentation by the proponent, limited to 10 minutes in length. The Parks and Rec Commission has submitted a proposal in opposition. They'll have 10 minutes to make their presentation as well. I'll then turn 20 boards and committees that may have voted to take a position on this article to hear from them, following which we'll open up the floor to debate. And I know, as I said, it's a hot evening. I don't think any of us want to be here all night. I think if we follow this procedure, we'll do this expeditiously, and we'll get through things. I know you all want to rush home and turn on the presidential debate, and we're mindful of that. So, all right. Article 1 is a voter petition for the rental or use of town-owned property as a proposed general bylaw. And it's been moved and seconded by the petitioners that the town vote to approve Article 1 as printed in the warrant. And I'll dispense with the reading of the article since you all should have it in front of you. If there's anyone who does not have it in front of them, the full text of that article, please either raise your hand, we'll get you a copy of the article, or get one from the check-in counter. And there was an update sheet. The yellow page indicates the positions that some boards and committees have taken, and we'll give them an opportunity to explain those positions that in time as well. So at this time, it's been moved and seconded that the town vote to approve Article 1 as printed in the warrant. So the motion is now before the body. So I'd call upon the petitioner to come forward to make their presentation. Oh. There's a handheld microphone for you, and your slides can be advanced. And I'd ask this speaker and all speakers to please introduce yourself by name and address so that we can properly record that for the record of the town meeting. So, sir, I'd ask you to introduce yourself and to begin your presentation. I don't think it's working.
Speak away from the speaker. Okay, everyone can hear me? My name is Jeff Armento. I lived in the town since 2004 with my wife and 3 children. Both my wife and I have volunteered in a number of capacities in the town. I've been volunteering with the high school boys and girls tennis team for at least 8 years. My wife's been on PTA, school committees, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to apologize up front for the shortness of the presentation. As the moderator said, we have 10 minutes, and I want to try to do my best to stick to that. So I apologize if I talk too fast. I've got a lot of stuff to cover in 10 minutes. So first slide, choice, that's basically the summation of why we're here today. We're here because we believe that there are rules within the town that put too much control in one group's hands in the form of a specific clause in a memo of understanding that was signed between town committees and the Parks and Recs Department, I believe back in 2012. In the words of Park and Rec, this was done to avoid duplication of services. To me, that seems to create a monopoly. Personally, I think having a monopoly is a bad situation, and I want to avoid that situation in order to ensure that we get the best programs and services for all the residents here in town. Slide. So you're going to hear some arguments against, I would assume, this evening. I know there's been a lot of stuff out there on social media, so I want to, talk to some of those things.
Excuse me one moment, sir. If we could please have it quiet in here, even the folks checking in, so that the speaker can be heard. In the rear of the room, even the check-in area, please lower your voices. Thank you. Okay.
One of the first arguments against this is the town was really unaware of this issue. To me, that's one of the things that really got me involved in this. The town was very aware of this issue. It was first brought up back in 2012 when this specific clause in the memo of understanding actually prevented some free programs. My wife and I got involved last year, so this has been going on since 2012, but my wife and I got into this in mid to late 2018 to help continue to push along this issue. In September, so I'm only going to speak to the time that we were involved and not the prior incidences back to 2012, but we actually took a copy of the petition and we sent it into the town looking for guidance on the writing of the petition, the process for special town meetings, et cetera. And we got an email back immediately, which was great, that basically said that this will be circulated and then reviewed and responded to. So about a week later, we did get a response, and that response was really specifically limited to the legal language within the writing of this petition. There was nothing regarding anything about the special town meeting, the costs of special town meetings, any indication of, hey, what is this issue? Let's talk about it. There was just guidance on the legal aspect of it. So about a week later, we responded to that email with new guidance or new legal writing. Again, this is a copy of the entire petition as it was signed that talks about the special meeting and all the issues. We sent that follow-up email asking again for guidance on the rewritten petition as well as guidance on the process for the special town meeting. And that email actually was sent on October 11th, and we didn't receive any response to that email whatsoever. We waited a few weeks. October 30th, we sent another email basically saying, hey, we never heard, we're looking for guidance, can someone please respond to us? We didn't get any response to that email as well. So again, we just did not get the answers we wanted, and we wanted a discussion. We didn't want this to go to the petition, but we were just really getting no guidance on that. The second thing is that this shouldn't have gone to a special town meeting. So, when bringing up a concern in the town, you have a choice. You can either call for a special town meeting, or you can address it in a regular town meeting. A regular town meeting, as you all know, that can be a very long meeting. The issue could get lost among 10, 20 other issues, where a special town meeting, this is the only issue. So given that information, I'm not sure who would choose not to do a special town meeting. And that's all the information we had. And again, we'd been asking for guidance, and we were receiving no response. So on the petition that was submitted in those emails and was signed, it specifically called for a special town meeting. And once the petition was signed, we actually emailed again and said, hey, here's the signed petition. We want some guidance on submitting this, the process and everything. There was zero response to that email. Sorry, I don't have a table here. So we followed up again a month later with another email saying, hey, no response. We included other people on the email, and again, zero response to that email whatsoever. So we submitted the petition. We went to the town, submitted the petition, and when it was submitted, we were asked the question, do we want this on a special town meeting? And of course, again, the only information we had after repeated requests for guidance was that this would be the only issue. So of course we're going to do a special town meeting. So we said yes, and that's what was on the petition. We submitted it. In the following weeks, we learned that there was a project done to discover what the cost of this meeting would be, because it seemed like no one really knew. And that project was completed, and there was a number thrown around that this cost us $13,000. It cost me as well. I'm a taxpayer. So as soon as we heard that, we went to the town hall and asked, hey, we didn't know that. Nobody ever told us that. We've been trying to get answers, and we never got that answer. Nobody knew. So can we pull this from the special town meeting and just go to the regular town meeting? The answer to that question was no, it's too late, can't do it. And then we even asked, well, hey, could we pull the petition and resubmit it with the language that doesn't call for a special town meeting? And again, the answer was no. So unfortunately, we didn't know that there was this cost to this meeting prior to submitting the petition. Otherwise, we definitely wouldn't have gone that route. The next thing is there is no issue. I mean, to me, we're all here because there's an issue. Why would that non-compete clause be in there if there was no issue? Why did 200 plus people sign this petition if there was no issue? Why did this go for, since 2012, essentially 96 months with virtually no discussion? And that's why we got involved, is we saw the lack of response to the multiple inquiries, the legal letters, so on and so forth. And when we got involved, unfortunately, as I've explained, we had the same experience. We're trying to have just a discussion, and we just weren't getting responses. And I've even heard that this MOU, that this clause in this MOU, from things I've seen online with videos and meetings and stuff, is that this really doesn't mean anything, that the town can do whatever it wants to without this clause in the MOU. And that actually was in a legal letter from town council that, even without this MOU clause, the town can do whatever they want. So we would say that, so this discussion is really a simple discussion on whether or not we believe that non-compete clause in the MOU, giving them the power to block programs and services, should be there or not. I mean, that's the simplicity of this. The next thing is that the language in the petition is no good. Obviously, there's a lot of legal mumbo-jumbo, I'll say, in this. We were forced to go down this path of this petition. We didn't want to go down this path, but unfortunately, when you do a petition, you have to put a legal framework around the discussion. And as we all know, legal framework around discussion sometimes isn't exactly the easiest read and doesn't really convey the meaning behind it. But that's what we basically were forced to do. Again, we would have rather worked on something together, but that was not offered. So we took a stab at it, and we were 100% open to rewriting this petition so that it achieves the goal of taking power away from one specific group to block any arbitrarily block programs and services that could be offered to the taxpayers and residents of Littleton. If you want to rewrite it, that's fine. If you want to rewrite the MOU to toss the non-compete, that's fine too. It's whatever gets us to that point. The next thing is about Marcus. I think you've probably all heard the talk about Marcus. And Marcus is a business owner. That's absolutely true. I'm a business owner, and I've heard that he's in this for the money. And I just have to say that is absolutely untrue. You know, Marcus came to the town, wanted to offer free tennis to kids who couldn't afford it, didn't know how to get into the sport. These people were never going to be his customers. He was shut down and felt it was wrong. He heard this happen to other groups, and that really made him act. And he's been spending thousands and thousands, at this point actually almost tens of thousands of dollars of his own money, and even agreed to pay for part of this meeting. If he were in it for the money, he wouldn't have spent that money doing it this way. He would have spent that money to try to lure people away from the Parks and Recs Department in Littleton to come to his facility through discounts and free things at his facility, advertising, etc. It would not be wise for him to spend his money doing this. This just is not a good reason if he's trying to make money. It's just not correct. If you can go to the next slide, that'd be great. So the next slide, I'm not going to go through this because we don't have time, but this isn't even a complete list, but this is a lot of the activity pre-petition and post-petition that happened, and you can kind of, if you quickly look at that, you'll see how the majority of the times there was just no response. We have all these emails, everything's in writing, the lack of response, everything is there. We didn't want to be here, we wanted to have a discussion, but there was no discussion to be had. So the next slide is reasons for, and just real quick, I mean, to me, again, this is a simple one. Does anyone in this room feel that limiting potential programs and services to the town, the residents, the taxpayers, is a good idea? Currently, there's a non-compete in place, and again, that's usually done for an entity to be successful and monopolize the situation. I don't believe this is good for the town, and that's why we're bringing this to everyone's attention. So in closing, I would say that, you know, for me, it's almost sad that in the 10 minutes I have, that I have to spend most of the time justifying how we got here and why we're here, why we're having this discussion. Apologize again, I have to flip pages here.
Okay, that's 10 minutes, sir. Can you wrap up in a
Yep,
minute or so?
I'm done. So, you know, as a taxpayer, I think the system was broken and has let us all down, including us. As a taxpayer, I don't want to be denied programs and services, and as a taxpayer, I want choice. That's where we started. So, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, I understand that the Park Rec and Community Education Program has a presentation as well. What's the point of information?
I'm going to make sure that's...
Good, okay. All right, we'll now hear from the Park and Rec Commission. If you'd also introduce yourself
Text Nancy.
before you begin your presentation.
I'm going to do a timer, okay? I'm going to do a timer.
You can do the timer.
Okay, well then. Good evening. First, I'd like to thank you all for being here tonight on this beautiful summer evening and taking part of the civic process instead of being at home grilling. Tonight, we're here to talk about the article that's being proposed by the voters' petition.
Could you please introduce yourself for
I'm
those
sorry.
who may not know you.
Sorry about that. Alicia Day, I'm the Parks and Recreation Director. Tonight I'm going to be reviewing the decisions that were made by the town boards, discuss the possible outcomes of this article line by line, and lastly share some of our collaborations with town departments and local nonprofits. You can sit. Okay, so I wanted to start out with this because I feel like this is pretty powerful. So we have consulted 6 boards within town. We have the Board of Selectmen, the Library Trustees, the School Committee, the Council on Aging, the Park Commission, and the Conservation Commission. Every board has voted unanimously to not support this article. So I wanted to make sure that that was known. And in addition, the Friends of the Council on Aging have also voted to not support this article. So there are 7 boards and committees in town that have decided to not support this. All right, so I think the easiest way to go about this is kind of going through line by line because it's a 4-line, 4-sentence petition or article. So the first one, this is excellent, right? This is how the town currently works. The boards and committees with care and custody control of any town-owned property, including without limitation, any park, playground, public building, schoolhouse, school grounds, or parking lot may rent and allow the use of any town-owned properties to members of the public, individuals, groups, both profit and nonprofit, for reasonable uses at reasonable times. All of the departments currently have policies and procedures that do implement this specific policy request. So currently, this is how the town does operate. Thank you, sir. Okay. So sentence 2, this is where we start getting into some longer term issues that we have with the wording of this. So this sentence carries with it some statements that could bring on serious repercussions to other town departments. The outcome of this sentence establishes a priority of nonprofit users over all other groups. It's also too vague with uses of phrases like community groups or for the region. This could be interpreted as non-resident groups getting priority use of town-owned and taxpayer-funded properties. Lastly, the request that the groups which serve the youth of the needs. So this is a really dangerous precedent that's based on ordering hierarchy of age. And that's something that as a town, that's a policy that we really don't want to take ever. We want to be able to have open properties, and if we're talking about rentals specifically, as we are in this case, we want everyone to be able to have access to it. So we don't want to specifically focus on the youth over families or adults, things like that. So, like I said, there are definitely some very serious repercussions that could come about because we're missing the seniors, the families, and the adults in this, and we're focusing specifically on youth. All right, line 3. So this is kind of talking about that memorandum of understanding that was brought about earlier. So our Park Commission Chair, Mike Prue, will talk about this a little bit later. But the reality is that the school committee is currently 100% in control of all school facilities. We do have a memorandum of understanding, but the reality is at the end of the day, the school does whatever the school wants to do because that is its right. Thank you, sir. All right. So this sentence is extremely contradictory to itself here. The sentence essentially says that because an event or program is similar to a Parks and Rec event or program, it is no reason to deny use. And then it goes on to say that if it directly interferes with the school or PRCE offering, that it should not be allowed. So in addition, this last sentence also singles out the Parks and Recreation Department specifically, which makes this a non-inclusive article. There's many other departments that provide human services in this town. Elder and Human Services, Council on Aging, Reuben Hoare Library, the Littleton Police, Littleton Fire, Littleton Public Schools, Conservation, and our department are all human services, and we all provide programming and events. Okay. So serious outcomes of this. With the focus on youth programs and the ambiguity of how far the regional circle goes out of this petition, it could set a dangerous precedent to the aforementioned departments and facilities and open spaces that they care for. All of these departments have policies and procedures that make sense for them as individual areas and meet their needs to care for the properties under their custody. In acting this non-inclusive, vague bylaw, this would require all of these departments to operate in the same exact manner. Lastly, the town bylaw cannot violate a state law. Mass General Law, Part 1, Title 12, Chapter 69, Section 8 says that the school committee decides its rules and regulations in regards to its building and grounds. This article is attempting to tell the school committee what they should do, and that is a direct violation of Mass General Law. Okay. So this one I'm just going to kind of wing, so we'll go through this. But, I think it's been said a lot that our department has the countering side, that our department does not work with other departments or other nonprofit organizations, and then in reality, we work very closely and we have a lot of collaboration here in town. So this first slide here, I'm talking specifically about collaborations that we have with our departments in town. So with Elder and Human Services, so we've been working and will completely work to provide free access to the table tennis and pickleball equipment. We do that every Wednesday and Friday for them. So seniors, if you want to come out and play pickleball and tennis, please come. It is on Wednesdays and Fridays, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. We provide free tables for all of the department at Third Thursdays. We want them to come out and talk about the programs that they provide. And we also operate the Holiday Helpers program that provides holiday gifts for Littleton families that are in financial need. So we do work in tandem with Elder and Human Services with that. Reuben Hoare Library, we've had mention about the Code to the Future class, which was a program that we ran. And then Reuben Hoare Library is creating a Coding for Girls program. So we have stopped running that program, and Reuben Hoare Library has it going. It's really successful. They have, I think it's a beginner and advanced program, so that has been really successful and keeps going. Again, free tables at Third Thursday. Conservation, so I'm not going to go through all these because I know Mike is wanting to speak here, but we can keep going through the slides. Conservation, Public Works, Girl Scout troops, Boy Scout troops, and those are just a few just within the past year of different programs and events that we've worked with the different groups. Littleton Public School PTA, we just did help them run a color run, which how much did we make for? $6,000 for the PTA, and we didn't take a dime. So that's something, we want to be able to help these organizations. The Littleton Athletic Boosters, Littleton Rotary. This year we're going to help them do the Appleman Triathlon. First Unitarian Church, we always waive the fees when we do events. St. Anne's, maintain the grounds for free for use of the soccer fields, and the Littleton Youth Sports. So I'm going to put this back up here while Mike does his presentation, just to remind you of the, organizations and boards that do not support this article.
Okay, if you could also introduce yourself. You have a minute and a half of the original 10 minutes. But
Thanks. I'm Mike Brew. I'm the chairman of the Parks, Recreation, Community Education Commission. So if I only have a minute and a half, I'm going to... So based on the petitioner's presentation, I was going to jump right into the MOU and some of the non-compete clause and why we need it, but I do need to push back on the timeline a little bit, what was presented. My first meeting was May 2017 as a park commissioner. That was the meeting Mr. Lewis came in, discussed running free tennis out of Tiger's Den with us. We talked to him for an hour. We asked questions. It was I thought, a pretty amicable back and forth. We basically said, thanks, but no thanks. We are already running a tennis program out of Tiger's Den. At that point, the conversation shifted to the fact that he didn't have a feeder program for his high school tennis team. So from that point, we suggested talking to Mike Lynn about bringing starting a tennis team into the middle school. I left that meeting thinking we had a pretty solid compromise. From that point, he went to Chairman, Mr. DeCoste was the chairman of the Board of Selectmen at the time. He started emailing him, so he went above our heads. And when he didn't get a response from Selectman DeCoste, that's when the lawsuit started. So, I don't know how a town handles threats of lawsuits when a board has already ruled on an issue. But, I would imagine that's probably why there was no response after that.
So that's 10 minutes. I'll give you another minute or two to finish up if you'd like.
Okay, thanks. So the MOU is simply an agreement between us, the schools, and the Board of Selectmen. It's
It's not a contract. It's not legally binding. If the schools don't want to, if they don't want to follow it anymore, there's a school committee for that reason. They, have a discussion. We'd want to participate in that discussion and voice our concerns. But at any point, they can void the MOU. Same with the Board of Selectmen. So, it's not anything hard and fast. It's simply an agreement put on paper to memorialize the decisions that 15 elected residents have made. I'm sure there'll be more questions on that as we go through the night, but that's really the gist of it. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, before we open up the floor to general debate, I'd like to hear from any boards or committees that have taken a position on this article. I'll recognize first the Board of Selectmen because I know that Chairman Knox will be speaking for them. But if there are other boards, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Morton. Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the process. This is something that's had me concerned since I first heard about this. And if the rest of the board wants to speak on the specifics of it after I'm done, that's fine. I've been in local politics for probably way too long for a lot of people think. But in all the years I've been here and all the passionate topics that we've had in town, and there's been many over 30 years, all the people that we've dealt with in the past went through the process. What they did is entirely correct with Mass General Law. Get 200 signatures on a petition and you can have a special town meeting. Not arguing that, I'm just arguing the process that has never been used before in town and why it possibly could have been done. Why would you pick the middle of summer to do this? I was in the assistant town administrator's office when this came in. We counted the days, we looked on the calendar, and it timed perfectly when school was going to get out. Plus, it's the middle of the summer. It's almost like they were trying to circumvent being at town meeting, all right? I know they wanted a platform to speak, that's fine. They even said it in one of their presentations on Westford Cable TV. But they could have been done with only 10 signatures back at regular town meeting, and we wouldn't have to be here tonight. It's been done this way since I can remember, and this is the first time this process has been used to talk about one topic when it can handle in many different ways. And to me, and this is just my opinion, I'll turn it over to the board members, this is just wrong.
Selectman DeCoste.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, Mr. Knox. As the chairman, when this started to all go down, the chairman of the Board of Selectmen at the time, I'm pretty aware of the process. I sat in on Park and Rec meetings. I was at that first meeting when Mr. Lewis asked if he could do tennis programs. As Mr. Prue had said, it seemed like there was some sort of an agreement in place. Mr. Lewis did reach out on many occasions. And we tried to have some cordial conversations. Keith Bergman, the then town administrator, it was stated that nobody knew the process was not put forward, and we basically stonewalled the petitioner. Keith Bergman explained the entire process to execute on a special town meeting to the petitioners, and to say that no opportunity was given, plenty of opportunities were given. This started all back in the fall. It could have been a fall town meeting, it could have been a May town meeting, and here we are. As far as the expense, none of us really knows, at least I'll say, speak for myself, I never knew what the expense of a town meeting was. I assumed it was somewhere around $5,000, $10,000. It's kind of in the margins. But it's just something that we do every year, and we expect it, and we budget for it. But this is an expense for us tonight. It's an expense of all of our time, and I wanted to just clarify that Mr. Bergman, in good faith, did give a lot of his time. I know that the petitioner had asked for some clarification on some of the language and whatnot, and as we've done in the past, we allowed that opportunity. We also allowed an opportunity for the petitioner to come forward at a Board of Selectmen meeting, which the Board of Selectmen has kind of created as our precedent. If there is a citizen's petition that comes forward, to allow the citizen's petitioner to come in front of the town, in front of the Board of Selectmen, and give a presentation, and there was the petitioners were not present, and they did not take that opportunity. So to say that we did not give them any opportunity or did not listen is a little bit disingenuous. So
I mean, it's a little bit frustrating that we're all here tonight. I know it's frustrating for the petitioners, but I know it's also frustrating for each of us because we do the best that we can, and we are extremely open, and we talk to a number of other communities, and I think that most of you would agree that when it comes to dealing with Littleton's boards, we're pretty open. We pretty much let everybody say their piece. There is a process to follow. This is within the process, but there is some question as to how some of these signatures were taken as well. Again, I'll go back to that word disingenuous, and I just feel that this could have been handled differently, and I wanted to make sure I clarified and put Mr. Bergman's name in good standing as well as the members of the Board of Selectmen. When we did go dark, if you will, we were served with a 93A, which is basically a threat of suit from Mr. Lewis, and at that point, we were advised by counsel, don't communicate. So at that point, we were under threat of lawsuit, so as anybody's attorney would tell them, you don't communicate with the person who's threatened to sue you. So thank you all for coming out tonight. I hope that we can see our way through this with civility and respect for one another, but I do in fact hope that this petition is voted down. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to hear from any other boards or committees that have taken a position before I open the floor up to, yes, school committee.
Thank you. Mike Fontanella, Chairman of the School Committee. I'd just like to say a few things in regards to the MOU and remind people that in Littleton, we don't have the luxury of having separate playing fields or separate facilities to do community programming. We don't have a municipal YMCA type facility. We don't have fields that are under the strict auspices of Park and Rec. We share our facilities and our fields with the town, the school department does with the town. Because we do it that way, it does require specific policies and procedures to make sure that we don't lose sight of who has which responsibilities on which days or which parts of the day or which evenings, which parts of the year. But most importantly, to make sure that we still keep the buildings and grounds for what they're primarily used for, which is the education and extracurricular activities of our school children. That's what we pay our tax dollars for. The MOU is an effort to make sure that we keep that codified and in mind as the department, the committees are the signatories to the MOU. We negotiated amongst ourselves. But it's to charge our staff who are in charge of the day-to-day operations to make sure that they are following the guidelines and procedures that we set forth as the elected officials and appointed bodies. There are times when we feel like we need to revisit it. There are times when things are brought to our attention that aren't working as well as we'd hoped or had the expected consequences or intentions. We can work through that. Modifying the town charter to narrowly address one specific issue is not what we try to do. It's not going to be functional. It's not practical. In terms of the way that we make this situation work, where we share facilities and stuff, it works great. We make the best of it. Our fields and buildings are open and in use all the time. Our staff maintains them as well as they can. We take advantage of the facilities that are afforded to us by the taxpayers, and we appreciate it. We will continue to make it work regardless of the outcome tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, are there any other boards or committees before we open it up to the floor? Yes, please identify yourself and the board or committee.
Sure. Julie Rupp, Conservation Commission. The Conservation Commission voted unanimously to not support this article. As the entity that has care, custody, and control of arguably the largest portion of town-owned land, the petitioners do not seem to have considered us. The petition seeks to usurp the decision-making process of the towns and boards for town-owned land. There are many unique situations, and we are entrusted with we have holistic knowledge of the resources. We have knowledge of challenges for different properties, and that just isn't something that can be productively contributed to by a bylaw such as this. So I just wanted to put that out there. Furthermore, in watching the video on Westford Cat, where the petitioners explained a little more, they indicated that they didn't care what the bylaw said. That is concerning to me, again, from a conservation standpoint, when clearly conservation was not the focus of this, but would very much be impacted, again, by having our decision-making process usurped. And then just as a resident, I have another comment. As a former petitioner of a citizen's article a few years back, it is standard practice to present your article to the boards who are requesting input. I find it incredibly disingenuous that the petitioners would not show up to present their article to the boards and committees requesting input. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, are there any other boards or committees to be heard from?
Yes, I'm Marge Payne, Chair of the Council on Aging. And just real quickly, I would like to say the board did have quite a lengthy discussion about this article and this petition. And, you know, I think most people in town know there's a problem with space already, without adding more people demanding use of the limited space we have. And our job on the Council on Aging is to advocate for seniors. We could not, in good conscience, support something that is going to even be more competition for the space that we don't have now. So we found it very difficult to support. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, are there any other boards and committees that wish to be heard from? Otherwise, we'll open up are you from a board or committee, sir, or you just want
No,
to?
I'm just a private citizen.
Okay, we'll get to you in just a second. I think that's all the boards and committees. So now we'll open up the question to debate from the floor. So please, if you can and you wish, line up at the microphone where this gentleman is and you wish to speak. If you'd like to have a microphone brought to you, please raise your hand and we'll arrange for that as well. But we'll start with you, sir. Yes, go ahead.
My name is Gerald James, 1121 Laurel Road, of course, in Littleton. You've got 3 words in that piece of whatever it is, after we get through tearing the legalese apart: open to the public. Not open to the residents of the town of Littleton, profit and non-profit. No, open to the public. That's a wedge job. Now what you're doing is you got an open-ended thing there. You vote that in, and now I can have a kid from Lexington come up and have a birthday party here. All right, open to the public. That's all.
Okay. All right. Yes, sir.
George Sanders, 672 Great Road. Mr. Moderator, you know, I think it's somewhat of a shame that we have to go through such procedure here and waste taxpayers' money. This town does not have the luxury of spending a lot of money on something like this here. I think there's a way to conduct business. If this gentleman, Mr. Lewis, or whatever his name is, he should have came to the town administrator and sat down and talked to the town administrator as to what he was wanting to do or try to do, if he wanted to offer with a genuine heart a free service to the citizen here in Littleton. When I first heard of it, my wife was telling me about she signed a petition up at Market Basket because it was said that Park and Recs did not want the library to give space there for something that they was teaching the girls that was free. And I'm saying, well, you know, the library is free. So if the library trustees and the management over there says, yeah, you can come in, you can use this, well, I don't think nobody else should be telling them that's an entity of this town to tell the library what they can't do, or any other department as far as that goes. I think first and foremost, we need to understand one thing. All of us need to get along. Everybody in this town needs to try to get along, because we are helping the generation that's going to come along, that's going to take over. If it is something free that somebody can offer to us and not hurt any other department or whatever the case may be, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think that if we have people that care about giving something free, there's a way you go about to do that. You need to find out who you need to talk to first. You don't always achieve something with threats and saying, take you to court, etc. You don't always achieve things when you come up with a petition, neither. What we need to do is learn to get along. That's the first thing we need to do. And in this small town as it is today, I am very fortunate with my family and myself to be in a town that I think is a good town. And we get along, and we are happy here. We don't create no problem here. And if this gentleman down in Acton, if he wanted to come and give us some service and tell us really, truly what he wanted to do, why ain't he here tonight? Because I think that we as a body in this town, I think we do a superb job when it comes to caring for Littleton. And Littleton has the first priority, as far as I'm concerned, about anything or whatever is going on you want to do. Littleton got the first priority. That's the way I see it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Just 1 minute, Jerry. Is there anyone in this section that wants to have a microphone brought to them? Give you an opportunity before we move on. If not, we'll hear from Jerry. Yes, sir.
Jared Opiory, New Estate Road. First of all, Selectman Knox is absolutely right. This is an unprecedented meeting, and when I first saw this, all I could think of is this is tailor-made for a special interest. And I am truly amazed and proud of the number of people that have showed up tonight to vote on this issue. Yeah. But more to the point, I was reading through this, and I'm no attorney, and town council can certainly correct me on this. The word shall is binding, will and may are permissive. And to me, what really leaves the town wide open with this is the statement that an event or program that is similar to any parks, rec, et cetera, shall not be grounds to deny the use. That seems to me to be leaving the town wide open to a lawsuit for anybody who gets turned down and they claim it's because the town is invoking a non-compete. But more to the point, I think our town boards do a good job, and we should not be supporting special interest legislation passed, brought to the board in this manner. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hello, everyone. Now you're going to hear the other side. My name's Joe Vayu. I've lived on Goldsmith Street for 15 years. When my children were young, they participated in many activities in Littleton and the surrounding towns. Some were official town-sponsored events, some were not. I encourage a yes vote on Article 1. The current town practice of denying access to facilities simply on the basis of overlap with programs offered by Littleton Parks and Rec is wrong and should be discontinued immediately. Here's why I believe this. First, on a personal level, I'm a product of the kind of non-town sponsored activities that this petition is all about. I grew up in Waterville, Maine, and when I was in high school, I wasn't good enough to make the official high school ice hockey team. I tried out, but I didn't make it. The story could have ended there, but it didn't. I latched on to an alternative program run by a few volunteers and sponsored by a local sporting goods store. That season catapulted me to a successful hockey career, and more importantly, gave me self-confidence and life skills that began building me into the person I am today. I could have been that kid, the one who got left behind. Instead, I got my chance because a few adult volunteers saw the formal system was failing and went outside the formal system to find a solution. That's exactly what this petition would empower for Littleton. Secondly, I object to the town's current practices because they're elitist. Prohibiting free programs closes off access for low-income children because they can't afford the fees charged by the official town programs. The Bible tells us we'll be judged according to how well we care for those in need. How can we square that with a system that does away with free or low-cost activities just because they overlap with a fee-based activity offered by the town? That sounds like a blatant money grab. If we keep this up, we're headed for a two-tiered society in which the haves are allowed to participate and the have-nots are not. And finally, on a professional level, I'm deeply troubled by the handling of the Girls Who Code program. My sources within the library tell me that in the spring of 2016, they were contacted by Parks and Rec and told they could no longer offer this program for free because Parks and Rec was going to offer a similar program, charging a fee, of course. The library's program would sap interest away from Parks and Rec's program. That couldn't be allowed to happen. The library directors were told not to offer this program and much more. Quote, they essentially asked that we not run any library programs without first checking with them, and they would veto any idea we had that they already had, end quote. Those are exactly the kind of strong-arm bullying tactics that Parks and Rec has used in its interactions with other groups, including tonight's petitioners. In a nutshell, this is why we're here tonight. Fortunately, the library ignored Parks and Rec and continued to offer their free Girls Who Code program. Nevertheless, I'm very troubled by Parks and Rec's attempts to stifle the library's good work. I work for Google, and I'm also a part-time professor at Simmons University, an all-women's college in Boston. I'm not legally authorized to speak on behalf of either organization, and I don't pretend to, but as a Google employee, I can tell you that Google strongly supports the Girls Who Code program and similar free programs to get young people interested in tech. We're particularly excited about programs for young women, communities of color, and other historically underrepresented constituencies. Attempts by the town to block such a program completely baffle me. To summarize, it's not about knocking out the competition so your program can eke out every last dollar. It's about doing the right thing for the citizens you serve. Your mission is to provide recreation for people. If someone can do it better than you can, or has an idea and wants to get involved, your job is not to squash them. Your job is to find a way to incorporate their enthusiasm in order to offer the best possible services to the people of Littleton, whether it's under the official Littleton Parks and Rec umbrella or not. A yes vote on tonight's petition is a step in that direction. Please do the right thing and vote yes.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, sir.
Mr. Moderator.
Mark Saucier, 3 Uplands Road here in Littleton. I actually have a 3-page speech I was going to say, but it appears that most of what I said has already been said by the Park and Rec and the other people urging you to vote no on tonight. So I'd like to take my time instead to let everybody know what a great job Park and Rec does for everybody here in Littleton. As a member of the Rotary, we've put on over 16 triathlons coming up next week and raised over $300,000. This would not have been possible without the help and cooperation of Park and Rec. As a member of the Littleton Track Organization, we've put on over a half-dozen road races at Fay Park, again with the cooperation of Park and Rec, and raised over about $40,000 to help support the physical track we have here in town, as well as help track and field athletes here in Littleton. As a member, well, actually, as a 3-season high school coach, cross-country, indoor track, and outdoor track, through Park and Rec or with their assistant, we've put on a number of fundraisers, again, to help raise money for the track program and the kids and the people here in Littleton. All of those events, in my eye, when I look at that Warren article, could be in jeopardy if another company wants to come in and put on a competing event. We made $300,000 so far with the Rotary, with the Appleman. How many for-profit companies from out of town would love to make $300,000? So for that reason, well, two reasons. One, Park and Rec does a great job. I support them in everything they do. And to prevent competition from fundraising organizations here in town, I urge you to vote no on this article. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I'd like to recognize Mr. Proulx, the Chair of Parks and Rec.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. I just heard that we're stifling free programs twice already. I just wanted to explain, we're not stifling free programming. Well, the only thing that we look to do is if we have a program in place, we try to get the best instructors as we can for the residents of town to run the best programs we can. If we have an instructor under contract, we sign contracts with them. If they're under contract to run a program, let's say tennis through Tiger's Den, someone comes along and says, I want to run a free program through Tiger's Den. It's the same thing. That's bad for business for us to then cut out the clientele from that contracted instructor and take away their profit. This is what they do for a living. So if we want the best instructors for the programs that we run, we can't run a program, establish it, have a great instructor, and then say, oh, this other guy wants to come in and do it for free, so you're out of luck. That would be bad for business. It would be bad for us. We wouldn't be able to get good instructors. The next thing is, I sat down with Sam Alvarez, the director of the library, last week. I obviously had talked to Alicia about the Coding for Girls program. I wanted to hear it directly from him. We sat down. I wanted to make sure he had a good working relationship with Alicia. He confirmed he does. One of the things he mentioned was when that came about, it was Alicia and Sam had pretty much just started. So they didn't have a lot of interactions working relationship-wise. I'll admit, you're talking to Sam, we could have handled it a little bit better, a little bit more diplomatic. But in the end, the library ran the coding class. We no longer run a coding class. They got their program. There's nothing, like I said before, there's nothing we can do if the entities that we're talking to say, no, we're going to run it anyways. Okay, we tried, run it. One of the speaker's points, I forget who it was, but we do, I think it was Mr. Sanders, we do need to all get along as departments. And that's one of the things that, Park and Rec is trying to do. Like I said, we have a good working relationship with the library. If we build a new library, that's going to have to get even better. It's what we're trying to do. Last point I want to make right now is, we aren't denying underprivileged kids or adults anything. We have scholarship programs in place for those who need it. More than willing to help out the community so that anyone can get the programming they need. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. Yes, sir.
Here he comes.
But
I'm
please
sorry, I'm a little shy here, but nevertheless.
Please identify yourself.
Oh, I
as if
forgot to
anyone
mention my
doesn't
name.
know who you are,
Like
but-
if you don't know my name, right? My name is Gino, okay? Farroni, 26 Harvard Avenue. All right, you want my birth? No,
Yeah,
no, forget
that'll
about
be
it.
used-
All right, the reason I'm here is to let people know the reason we're here because somebody was able to have 200 signatures in a petition. The question is, many people call me, they say, Gino, I have a little problem. I signed a petition, I didn't even know what it was. I said, why did you sign it? Well, they were very pleasant. I wanted to let people know, do not sign anything unless you read it. If you don't understand it, I'm not a lawyer, but I speak several languages and I'm a notary, so you can come and see me. I won't charge you a penny. All you have to do is give me a hug. That's it. Now, I trust the Park and Rec. I noticed the chief is walking around. He's ready to arrest me. Okay? I'm going to say a few words. That's it. The question is, I trust the Park and Rec. We have a phenomenal selectmen. I love them. You know what I mean? I love my police and the fire department. And I love all of you guys. And I'm come from Venice, Italy. The question is, this country, I object what he says. This country is good for everybody. Only you have to do it, be diplomatic. Don't try to be diplomatic like me because I never get anywhere. But trying to be nice to your selectmen, work with them. Don't try to deceive the people. And I'm sure I'm not the only one knows why those signatures were sent. Somebody was very pleasant, very diplomatic on his words. That doesn't work. Be careful. If I come and I say, please, I'm running for select, would you sign my name? They say, who are you? Then I have to wait half an hour to tell them, who am I? You have to do the same when you sign a petition. So remember, you have any problem, come and see me.
All right, thank you. Yes.
My name's Liz Hohenschel. I live on 92 Colonial Drive. I appreciate both sides, and I move that we vote.
All right, I'll take that as a motion to close debate, and she did it in the proper fashion, just to point out, it has to be the only comment you make when you appear at the microphone, and you can't shout it from the bleachers or anything else. So she did it the right way, so it requires a 2/3 majority. It's not debatable. So at this point in time, we'll take a vote on the motion to close debate. All those in favor of closing debate on Article 1, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed? No. Okay, that's a 2/3 majority to close debate, and we'll now move to a vote on the main motion, and I'm going to try to determine the outcome by voice vote. If the chair is in doubt, and I sometimes am, we'll have a hand count, but let's see how far we get. Okay, I think we're going to try for voice vote, and failing that, we'll use the checkers. Thank you. All right, the motion again, motioned and moved and seconded by the petitioner that the town vote to approve Article 1 as printed in the warrant. And there were no amendments, so. Okay, all right. All right, the clerk has advised me to explain what a yes and a no vote means. A yes vote would approve this new general bylaw, which, if voted here this evening, would be sent to the Attorney General's office, and if approved by the Attorney General, would become a law here in the town of Littleton. The Attorney General sometimes changes things that get submitted, and it doesn't always come back in the same form. That's what would happen if you vote yes. This would be, this bylaw would be approved by town meeting, would go to the state Attorney General to be approved. A no vote would not approve this bylaw. There'd be no change. There'd be no vote to be sent to the Attorney General. So is everyone clear on what a yes and a no vote is? Okay. Once again, moved and seconded by the petitioner that the town vote to approve Article 1 as printed in the warrant. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nay. Nay. Okay, I think even this moderator can determine that the motion fails to achieve the necessary majority, and I declare it a vote. Thank you very much. Before we entertain the motion to dissolve, thank you all for coming out this evening, and I know you're all in a hurry to get home to the debate. Is there a motion to dissolve? Seconded? All in favor? Aye. All right, this special town meeting is dissolved. Thank you. I think that was